Bob was really a visionary and an innovator in the industry of musical instruments, specifically electronic musical instruments. He built his first instrument when he was 14 years old. He built a theremin using the instructions from the back of a hobby magazine, and that really kick-started everything, set him on a path that leads us to where we are today. You know, we are one of the top musical instrument manufacturers in the world. Our synthesizers are renowned as being some of the best instruments in the world, and they're all made right here in Nashville, North Carolina. Our entire operation is all within this building. Manufacturing and production downstairs. Our shipping is in the next building over. Upstairs we have all of our engineers who design the instruments, all of our sales and marketing, our media. We really try to keep as much in-house as we possibly can. And last year we shipped about 10,000 individual units of product from this floor. Now, like I said, we have 50 people in the whole company. Down here on the production floor, we have about 15 people in the production team building these instruments. And, you know, it's a very small amount of people creating a very large amount of product. You know, everyone that works here is incredibly efficient, very well versed in what they're doing. And because, you know, we keep things so small, we're able to really do a lot of really big things having everyone in the same building. We still use an all-analog circuit design, and what that means is when you create sound electronically, you can do it in one of two ways. You can use an analog circuit, which is a real circuit with real components and real voltages, or you can do it digitally, where you have a computer chip that simulates all of these things virtually. We actually use the real components and the real voltages, and a lot of people prefer that sound because it is more of a warm sound, more organic, more natural. You know, our ears and our brains are very sophisticated measuring devices, and even though we might not be able to come up with words to quantify the differences, those differences are there, and they are noticeable. And then the other thing that's really important is we still build these instruments the same way that they were built back in the 70s, and that is doing it by hand with, you know, real local workers here in the U.S. The idea of old school American manufacturing is very important to us here at Moog, and really having those human eyes and human hands and human ears on these instruments through every step of the process is something we take very seriously. So all of the instruments that we build here are built in teams. In this area, you can see there are 4 stations, so there are 4 team members that are contributing work to every mini Moog that comes through. And what's really important is that each team member does their own quality check to every instrument. So in this area alone, there will be 4 different quality checks by 4 different people on every mini Moog synthesizer that gets built. There will still be 2 more quality checks that happen to each mini Moog before they leave the factory. Now we bring it over to what we call our burn-in racks, and we plug them in and leave them on for 24 hours. The reason we do this is that electronic components, if they're going to fail, they'll fail in the first 24 hours. So this is a way for us to check all of those parts by leaving it plugged in, applying voltage to the entire circuit. If anything, if there's an LED light that's going to burn out or a resistor that might pop, it'll happen in that first 24, and then we can go back and address the situation before we move on to calibration. This is our service area for the factory. It's also the only authorized service center for Moog in the U.S. So any products that need any repairs, anything at all, come back to the factory into this very small room. I want you to imagine for a moment how many parts it takes just to make one synthesizer. All the nuts and bolts, screws, circuit boards, knobs, wood, metal, keys, and then multiply it times 10,000. That's how many parts need to be kept up with back here every year. And then to realize that our entire warehouse is just run and staffed by 2 guys. Day in and day out, they keep up with all of this for us. And it's really amazing what they're able to do back here, because essentially they're the backbone of the company, making sure that we have all the parts that we need to build, and then making sure we can all get a paycheck at the end of the week by getting the right instrument in the right box on the right truck to our customers. And then they're also the last line of defense. Those quality checks that I talk about being done, as soon as, even after the final check, even after everything's been given the okay, our warehouse guys bring it back here. They're going to take a look at it. If there's anything that they don't like, if they see a scratch or on one of the keys or a smudge that won't come out, it goes back to the very first station. They take it apart just to fix that key. I mean, we really want everything to be perfect before it leaves. So now that we've been through the whole factory, essentially, you know, obviously, you know, I've talked to you guys about how we're building here, how important it is to us to be doing it in the U.S., to be using local workers and having, you know, humans involved in the whole process. That idea of old school American manufacturing. You probably also realize it's a kind of a small operation, physically even. We have a small space, and obviously we don't have the resources here to work wood or shape metal or even print circuit boards. So we have to get those materials from outside vendors. but it's still very important to us to try to get as much as we can from within the U.S. So all of our wood comes from Knoxville, Tennessee. All of our metal comes from a company in St. Louis, Missouri. And then our circuit boards come from a number of different places, just because we have so many applications here in the factory. But the closest manufacturer to where we stand right now of circuit boards for this company is in Woodford, North Carolina, which is 5 minutes down the road. We also have a supplier in Raleigh and one in Virginia.